Hey everybody, I'm back again with another special guest, Fahim Siddiqui, who is the co-founder and Unity developer at Studio Cloud Gray. How you doing today, Fahim?
Not too bad, not too bad.
Yeah,
It's
not too
just
bad.
this excited for this, but also kind of dreading this because I've
That's
never had to talk about it. So
that's
yeah,
okay, man. I
yeah.
I mostly interview, indie people or people that have never been. It's just meant to be a lot of fun. So
Mm,
hopefully we will have fun. You spoke before we started about Marvel Rivals, so
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be as fun as you were having when you played
Oh
Marvel
my God, yeah.
Rivals.
Crazy fun.
Yeah, crazy fun.
Wolverine main right here.
Wolverine, man. Have you only played with Wolverine or have you played with
No,
anybody else?
I've tried Star-Lord as well. But I feel like I'm cheating when I'm playing Star-Lord because he's just
Really?
broken. His ultimate is aim assist.
Oh, really? I've heard that him and the Punisher are like Soldier 76
Yeah.
from
Oh yeah.
Overwatch. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, enough about Marvel Rivals. Let's
Yeah.
get into your questions. Um, so starting off here, in your personal portfolio, you credited Alan Turing's work for inspiring you to take up computer science. What was it about his work, or what specifically was it that he did that inspired you so much to do computer science?
Yeah, of course. So I'll have to refer to The Imitation Game because the story of Alan Turing is not that popular in mainstream, and it was in fact classified until 2013, I believe, because as you know, he was a hero, an unsung one during the World War II, and his work with Christopher, which is what the code name for the decoder in the movie is what shortened the war by at least 2 to 3 years, is what the statistics people say. And growing up, I always wanted to do something to do with computers. That was after the age of 5 when the whole I want to be a pilot thing ended, right? Um, and then I watched the movie, and before that, the general idea behind artificial intelligence and computer science was that, oh, it's some new thing. It's this new gig that everyone's excited about. This is like the early 2000s I'm talking about. And then all of a sudden, the story of Alan Turing came to my vision, and I just saw the whole aspect of computer science in a different light. I just saw that he treated this with so much love and passion and respect that he wasn't just some guy who's just good at math. That's not what he was trying to do. He realized that it's a gift to do this, to be able to do this. It's like astrophysics. You're dealing with powers beyond our wildest imaginations. And this man in the early 40s decided that, hey, maybe instead of fighting machine intelligence with people writing down on notepads, what if we created an artificial intelligence? That's where the idea came from. And I know I'm gonna sound like I'm just hopping on the train when I talk about AI, but AI isn't just something that NVIDIA is playing with, something Elon Musk is playing with. For me, AI is just beauty. So that's what really compelled me. His view on the whole thing, to be honest.
And was it like after when you saw that movie, were you
When I
just like,
saw the
this
movie,
is this
yeah,
is what I'm
actually.
doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna have to confess this. I was one of the idiots who didn't know about him. I knew that he was some crazy mathematician in the 40s, and his papers were still being published. It's just the whole story that the British government swallowed because they did do him wrong for being a homosexual person. So when that whole thing came out, I was like, yeah, that's my hero.
Awesome. And as great a hero to have as any.
Oh yeah.
Um, you've worked on numerous game projects for Studio Cloud Gray,
hmm
Game Jam teams, and more. I mean, when I was looking at your portfolio, like usually I'll pick one or two games to talk about with somebody, but you just had a lot. How have your experiences working on these projects strengthened your skills as a developer?
Mostly I think it's been an emotional roller coaster because as you know, somebody who's been exposed to the game industry, it gets really frustrating really fast. But the beauty of creation never leaves you. So my experience with working with all these teams, with like a bunch of artists and a few developers who are my friends, who have been my friends over the years, has been, well, it's been phenomenal. I I know that you said I have a lot of projects I worked on, but most of them are amateur at best. So I learned as I grew, I did start learning back in 2018 on how to make games, through Unity and stuff. And it's actually crazy how it started because it was just me and my best friend, and we were like, "Hey, we don't know what we want to do after school." And he was like, "You love video games too much. You're addicted, man. Maybe you should make them." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I should."
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been crazy. It's been crazy.
Well, I mean, when you mention, most of them are amateurish at best. I mean, I don't think that you should like, not that you were, but that shouldn't be something that's discounted. These videos that I'm doing could be considered as amateurish, but I think that putting
Oh,
in the work and doing this and showing like, hey, I can do this, even if it's a small thing, is still really impressive. So,
thank you. That means a lot. Actually, I have to actually rephrase it because I'm not the only one who worked on these projects. So I just have to say that whatever my fellow developers did, my friends and the artists that I made to be my friends along the way, they did crazy, crazy effort. Like the work it took, the all-nighters we pulled. Maybe when I call them amateurs, it's just my tortured artist vibe that comes out
yeah.
where I compare everything to Hollow Knight because I'm like, it's no Hollow Knight, it's I
Well,
think
Hollow
that's what
Knight's
it
a
is.
crazy success story.
Oh my God.
Like it's like the Cinderella story of indie
Yes.
games, probably.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, hey, if everything goes all right, you'll get there. Hopefully.
That's the hope.
Uh,
That's the hope.
so, and I think it was t 2021 or 2022. So, but correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since
Mm.
I wrote these questions. But you're a co-founder of Studio Cloud Gray, and I believe you co-founded them in 2021 or
Yeah,
2022.
2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
How, since its inception, have you seen the studio grow and maybe in terms of, you know, people who works their skill set or projects that you've worked on or maybe your culture as a studio? How have you seen the studio grow since you guys started it?
The answer in short is yes. The answer not in short is it's like watching a child grow. I have seen this so Studio Cloud Gray is actually the second indie studio I founded.
Okay.
The first one was like I mentioned with my best friend back in 2018. It was called RBKN. It's still connected to some of the projects on my portfolio. It stands for RBKN stands for Robo Knight Studios. We were very young. We were very naive. We had
It's
a
really
whole
good.
logo that I designed.
It's awesome. Robo Night
Yeah,
Studios. It sounds
yeah.
cool.
The so it's when it fell apart eventually because we were growing up, it was a turbulent time. I was still in school, and you know how the pressure gets. I took a break. I took a major break. It was a year, I think, almost, when I just simply put away everything. I deleted Unity. I was like, I can't do this. I can't pass computer science and hopefully make Alan Turing proud and also make games in the same time. I just can't. And then 2021, I was sketching out this character on my notebook, and I was like, I wish I could give him a story. And I'm not a movie maker, I'm not a writer, I'm not a great author or anything. So I was like, what's the only way I can give him a story? It's to make a game. And so I picked it up, and it was it was definitely 100% amateur at best because it was just me. I did the art. I hand drew them with the little drawing board I bought. I did the coding, but that part's pretty easy. And somehow I did this for a game jam, by the way, and somehow I came up third in the graphics department. It's like it was 1,000, 1,200 in every department that I was good at.
Mhm.
It was third in the graphics department, which is art and animation, which was crazy because I was like, oh, okay, cool. I guess the first proper project of Studio Cloud Gray is a success.
Mhm.
And it was just me. And then my friend who was in RBKN with me, one of them, he was like, I would like to join. And I'm like, sure. From there, it was two people. And then suddenly we were looking for artists because we came across this another game jam and we found an artist. He seemed great at first. No offense, but he kind of started falling out with us after the project. Suddenly maybe there was a lot going on in his life. I know that he was struggling a lot in personal life and stuff. So that didn't work out, and then we got two more artists, and from there it's like one people to now we're at seven people, and one of our members is a drummer in a band in Rochester, New York. And he's
Yeah,
crazy. I've seen him live. He's amazing. I live in
that's
Toronto, but
awesome.
he came to Toronto for a show and he was like, "Hey guys, do you want to come see me play?" I'm like, "That's our sound designer, guys. That's Randy." Oh, oh my God, yes. So yeah, it's been quite a ride. I have seen it grow. Yes.
Awesome.
It's yeah, something.
Well, I mean, when you've got like an indie startup like this, you've got people that kind of like come from all over, uh,
Oh yeah.
do all sorts of crazy stuff. Like, like I think I volunteered at an indie studio for a little bit over the summer, and I think the sound design guys all were like musicians
Yeah.
as well. So, yeah, but you're currently a lead programmer with Cloud Gray.
hmm
How has this experience differed from maybe programming roles that you've had in the past? Maybe because you're a lead programmer this time and you've got some people under you, or maybe it's the projects you're working on, but how has it differed from past
So
experiences?
the big difference that I faced while being one of the lead, I'm not the only lead, I just have to say. It's my friend's also the other lead, and we have another friend who helps out with the coding and engine stuff. The thing that comes with being the lead programmer is that it's more than the title. Like I am in charge of, in collaboration, of course, of the major choices. I also help out with the art sometimes. I also help out with the animation. And sometimes when there's a crunch, I have to do those animations with my developer partner. So when you're the lead, at least from my experience, the whole experience becomes something a lot bigger than just staring at your screen, typing out crazy code. It becomes a matter of bringing everything together. You're the person who's putting the glue and joining the parts. So I think that's been the biggest difference from being a normal programmer at something else that I've worked on.
Gotcha. Awesome. So. This is something I was really curious about when
hmm
I was kind of diving into your studio and everything that you've worked on. But Studio Cloud Gray has collaborated with Acorn Land Labs on a game that was partially funded on Kickstarter called HomeFree.
Yep.
How was working on that project, and what did you take away from it?
It was the most grand effort we ever took as a studio, I ever took as an indie developer, because it started off with us reaching out to multiple potential collaborators. Like we were finding companies and startups and other farms that were doing things that we liked and that we had ideas about. So to be more specific, when we found Acorn Land Labs, so just for context, they are a pioneer of off-grid sustainable living, and they're big environmentalists. They teach people how to build, let's say, a garden and a methane digester on the premises, and just produce your own energy and stuff like that, and create a whole cycle where you can grow food, all the good stuff. So when we found them, we were like, hey, well, my partner. Uh, When I say partner, I mean my developer buddy.
Okay,
He's
that's
the
what I
one who
figured.
found, yeah, he's the one who found them. And he was like, "Hey, Fahim, I have an idea for you." And I'm like, "Yes, go on." And he's been like, "Dude, you've sunk in about 150 hours in Stardew Valley over the past 2 months. That's crazy. So how about this? We create a similar genre game for these people. And what they're doing is a very good thing for society. So maybe we could make it more realistic, more impactful." So we basically approached them with the idea, and I have never liked being the marketing guy. I've never liked making sales pitches. Even at my part-time jobs and stuff, I hated it. I am not a great seller, to be honest. So that was daunting. That was daunting, but thankfully the people at Acorn were great. They were like, "Yeah, we love the idea. We've never thought about it, but this seems like a great idea." And from there, the experience was just crazy because within a few months, they had pulled together a team to handle the Kickstarter, and they didn't want us to worry about any of the marketing or how we are going to get the funds. And they said, just give us what we need to show that we can make this. Just give us a demo, and we did. We worked the hardest on it. Um, and I think God bless our artists. they just pulled through. One's from Brazil, the other one's from Kazakhstan, and yeah, they did crazy work.
Awesome.
It's I think one of the things I'm most proud of.
Yeah. Um, you guys have got, a demo for the game
Hmm.
on your website, I believe. How long has the demo been out? I don't remember seeing like
Since
or
April.
maybe since April. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys still steadily working on the game?
The problem right now is that we're looking for more funding because we do have to pay our artists for big projects like this. Because, a game
Mm,
jam, we can do it in like a week, three
yeah.
days. But for a game of this scale, we have a whole lore document with our creative guy who's Joe from Acorn Land Labs. We have an idea for a world much bigger than Stardew Valley ever made. So yeah, right now we're just looking for funds. We're doing some brainstorming, soul searching, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so my next question was actually you already answered it. So I was going to ask how you came into collaboration with Acorn Land Labs, but you
I'm
described
sorry, I
all of
talked
it.
too
No, no,
much.
no, you're
I jumped the
good.
question.
You're fine, man. It's no problem at all.
Yeah.
How has it been collaborating with Acorn Land Labs to the original, I guess, question I had was to convert their vision into your development cycle because I had assumed that they approached you guys, but it seems like it's the opposite.
Yeah,
So
it's the
how has it
opposite.
been how has it been converting, I guess, your vision with them? Have they suggested any like creative have you guys had like any creative differences?
Oh yeah.
Have there how's the whole process been?
So as you know, when you're part of a team making something, it's tough to get everyone to agree. And I think it's like 100 times tougher when it's something creative, and especially like a project like this, where I had an idea, my friend had an idea, Joe had an idea, and we had to put everything into the melting pot and see what came out. And we had hours and hours of meetings. And what I liked about the experience is that everyone was respectful of the other person's notion, and like nothing was stupid. No matter how silly it sounded, it was on the table. And we all like it was just a proper democracy. That's what I really liked, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Because I've, heard accounts of projects falling apart because nobody
Oh,
can
that's the biggest
agree on.
challenge. Yeah.
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 So it's good that you guys are able to just like, yep, we'll do this.
Yeah.
Um, as a lead programmer, and maybe perhaps with Acorn Land Labs and working on HomeFree, what are some common struggles that you encounter and kind of how do you navigate through these struggles?
I think the it's gonna sound like a cliche, but the biggest struggle was money because as we set a goal, which was very, small, reasonable on Kickstarter, we hit the goal and then we stopped. And sometimes you just get unlucky. That's what happened to us. Like, despite all the marketing, despite Acorn having a good, big, active community supporting them on YouTube and through their courses, the funds just stopped. So it was like a creative block that didn't happen naturally. It's like we were writing this big, epic poem, and then suddenly we ran out of ink. And everyone's just sitting there like, but I have ideas. But I'm working on something great. So the hardest part for me was to tell everyone that, guys, let's take a break. We are going on a break. It doesn't mean that, we're just completely scrapping it. It doesn't mean that, what everybody has signed up for as a fan, as a potential fan for the future whole game is, they're just hopeless. That's not it. I think the biggest problem is that, like, running out of funds and just having to call it a day for now.
Mm, Gotcha. Makes total sense. And I don't really think it's cliche. I mean, there's indie studios that. Pop up left and right,
Mhm.
I think the studios are popping up every day, in fact.
Oh yeah.
So you got studios popping up every day, and then on top of that, um, and I don't think that people realize that, and this isn't meant to sound rude or negative, but in a way that's kind of competition because these studios are looking for funding
Oh
or
yeah.
publisher to work
Mm.
with. Um, and then on top of that, I mean, your game is on Kickstarter, so not only are you competing with other games on Kickstarter, but you're competing with other products outside of games, you
Yeah, the
know?
bigger challenge with Kickstarter is that there are studios out there that have already partnered up with an investor company that spends, let's say, 100,000 USD just to market the game. So they have those kinds of funds to do the marketing, which then it's like a vicious cycle, but in a good way.
Yeah,
But for companies like us, like, we're just a bunch of nobodies just driving forward through passion and passion only. Acorn was running on their own fuel. Like, they are also a small startup. So we don't have that kind of jet fuel to compete with those kinds of studios unless a little luck is involved. So you're
gotcha.
right on that. Yeah.
So, I mean, going forward, you know, what are some of your studio's plans for the future? I know that, you know, you're kind of taking a break on Home Free until some more funding can come in. You guys going to be working on smaller projects? Do you have like a time frame when you want to return to Home Free? Like, what
Yeah.
are your plans?
Um, Two things. Well, two-pronged answer to your question, basically. So after we, took a break from Home Free after we were done with the demo and, we were looking for funding, we actually worked on another project that I'm really proud of. It's somehow I'm more proud of than Home Free because it's called Nuclear Pollo, and pollo is, Spanish for chicken. It was a crazy idea for a game jam that happened right on the cusp of the passing of Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball. And we were working day and night. It was a 3-day game jam, and somehow it looks even better than Home Free. I don't know how we managed to do that. I don't know how we managed to do that. But I mentioned Akira Toriyama because I had an idea that, hey guys, let's pay a tribute to the GOAT. So one
Okay.
of the powers is actually going Super Saiyan
Oh,
as
really?
the little chicken guy. Yes. So yeah, we've had a couple little projects that we worked on with the same team, and they've been crazy enthusiastic about it, fighting the depression together. Time frame wise, Acorn is starting the marketing back up, and we're working on some new features to add to Home Free. We're working on a standalone fishing demo for Home Free right now. And time frame wise, I think Joe said last that he is looking to get something to us by February.
Okay.
So yeah, uh,
Awesome.
we're
So,
hopeful.
yeah, it sounds like you have a lot to be hopeful about.
Yeah.
Are you guys big, or well, you in particular, but also your team, are you guys big Dragon Ball fans over there at Studio Cloud Gray?
I grew up watching them. I never had a chance to watch it properly. It was just me as a child, just listening to Goku scream,
Yeah,
being in awe of future Trunks showing up, and just the idea of time travel in that way. Yeah, we are actually. Yeah, my friend's a bigger fan. He has memorized the whole Dragon Ball Z abridged from YouTube.
gotcha.
How about
Um,
you?
I well, it's not that like I dislike. I've never watched it, and
Fair enough.
it's
That's
like
okay.
it's the same thing with like Naruto and One Piece, where it's like I'd like to watch this, but there's like so much. Like this would take out
It's
like
so long.
a year of my life. But
Yeah.
I mean, regardless, I still respect them as, you know, um IPs or properties that have
Yeah,
really
of
like
course. Yeah.
changed, you know, that medium, you know.
So
Um
influential.
so influential.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you know how Mario's like you don't have to play video games to know
Just to
Mario.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's the same thing with like Goku or Naruto. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
don't have to watch anime to be like, oh well, that's Goku or that's Naruto. So I think no, I think they're you got to respect it, even if
Of course.
you don't watch it or you don't like it.
Yeah.
But um, you know, what advice can you give to any programmers or level designers or anybody trying to enter the industry, trying to do games? What advice can you give to people that are looking to enter?
For people looking to enter the industry, I would say work on as many projects as you can with as many people as you can, because that's important for two factors. One, that if you just learn, like in a school kind of way, like if you just do courses after courses after courses, you can learn everything you want. But if you don't do projects, you don't actually understand how challenging it is to actually put those skills to utilization. Like you could be doing a Udemy course and following what they're saying, gaining knowledge, understanding how it works. But if you never do it on your own, you're not going to understand how much bigger and more satisfying it is. Because creation, I think from the beginning of humanity has been noble. It's perfect. The other factor is work with the team. Like maybe somebody, that's in a startup already, it could be paid, it could be unpaid, I don't know. Work with the team. It helps you gain communication skills that you don't get from working in anything else. Because, like I mentioned before, working in a creative setting with the team is 100 times harder because there will always be, we're human beings, so there will always be creative differences. Something you think is cool might not fly as the same to someone else's eyes. So it's that skill that will help you get forward by quite a lot in the industry.
And not to like, tear not tear down, but I don't know, dispute what you said, but that can go for like most industries, right? Going and creating a
Oh,
portfolio
absolutely.
or create like, that's how it is with me. That's why I'm doing these. No, I think that's sound advice
Absolutely.
for anybody listening. So even if you're not making games, if you're watching, you just, I don't know, maybe you just like
Absolutely.
games.
Applies to anything.
Um, it
Yeah.
applies to anything. So, I mean, that's most of the questions I have about Studio Cloud Gray, but at this point, I like to turn the interview towards like kind of more fun questions.
Mhm.
So, the first question I have here for the more fun questions is what is your favorite game of all time?
Oh my God. Um, there's something called a recency bias that
Okay.
affects me as a person every day of my waking life, and I hate myself for it. So I'll have to say Black Myth Wukong.
Black Myth Wukong, that's your favorite
Yes,
game.
of all
Okay.
time. If you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have said
Uh,
Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. That one has stood the test of time in my head. Absolutely. Yeah. But
okay.
I think yeah, from the recency bias, I have got to say Black Myth Wukong.
I think everybody's experienced a little bit of recency bias
Yeah, I'm sure.
in
Yeah,
their
it's
life.
just,
Sekiro, that's the only like from soft Souls-ish
yeah.
game I haven't beaten.
Really?
It's the only one that actually makes me mad, and I think it's because I can't get the parrying right. I've just never been able to get parrying right.
Honestly, I get that. I get that. The final boss took me 9 hours of straight fighting.
Yeah, I heard it's hard. I've heard it's really hard.
But he's
And
extremely fun too, once you master his moves.
but like other Souls born like I don't really have issues with a lot like Bloodborne. I beat Gearman first try.
Have you played the
Uh
DLC though?
I have not played the DLC. I've heard it's really good. I haven't played the DLC for I've played the
I
DLC for Dark
have
Souls.
a tattoo from Bloodborne.
That's what I saw that and I didn't know if it was
Yeah,
Bloodborne
that's
or
the
Berserk.
that's the hanging
Yeah.
symbol.
But I
God,
couldn't tell if it was Bloodborne or Berserk because I
I
think
just
Berserk's got a very similar
it's
looking
actually
thing.
inspired by Berserk. So as you
Really?
know, yeah, the Hidetaka Miyazaki pulls a lot from Berserk in all his works. Elden Ring, Bloodborne. Because like in Berserk, the sign is like two triangles on two sides. And the same sign actually exists in Bloodborne as well as the mark of the Hunter of Hunters. It's the
Okay.
Crow Lady's sign. Yes, it's crazy. But I just have to tell you one thing. I love Bloodborne with all my heart. And you haven't really faced difficulty if you haven't played the DLC of Bloodborne.
Really?
Yes,
Well,
the final boss of the DLC is nothing like Gehrman. Gehrman is like cakewalk. He's like Tree Sentinel level compared to Orphan of Kos.
oh yeah, yeah, I've heard a lot about Orphan of Cause. I'll have
Yeah.
to try that. Um, moving forward, so usually I'll do a blind ranking. But since the Game Awards are on um
Oh,
Thursday, I'm gonna have you rank the Game of the Year award nominees from worst to best.
I gave it away, didn't I?
You did give that away,
I
but that's
gave it
not
away.
your fault.
All
Um,
right.
do you remember the Game of the Award Game of the Year? I can list them all here.
Can you please?
Yeah. So you've got, and it won't be a blind ranking since they're not blind. So I'll list them all out, and then you can just name them.
Okay, cool. Cool.
So first is Metaphor ReFantazio, Black Myth Wukong, Shadow of the Erd Tree, Astrobot, Final Fantasy Rebirth, and Balatro.
I have a little rant before I rank them. Is that okay with you? I'll take 30 seconds.
As long as it's not like a mean-spirited
No, no, no,
rant.
it's not. It's not. It's
Okay.
not. I as you know, I love From Software. I have a freaking tattoo of them, and I loved playing Shadow of the Erdtree. I loved it. It's the greatest DLC I've ever played. I think it was more satisfying for me personally than the base game, which is saying a lot because Elden Ring was generational. But I personally think it should not be counted in the Game of the Year nominees. I know it's probably a very unpopular opinion right now. I just think that they had their accolades lined up. They rightfully won Game of the Year for the base game. And if it's a DLC that you can't even access until you beat like 60% of the main game, I don't think it should be competing with titles from studios that worked on an original standalone item. And I say that out of respect for the studios because let's say you make a product with so much effort for years and years that's and in the context of Black Myth Wukong that means so much to billions of people worldwide because of a character they grew up listening to stories about. And then suddenly there's Shadow of the Erdtree. And I personally think if I were not biased in this opinion, I would put Shadow of the Erdtree on the top. But
Really?
because, yes, but because of this, I think, let's start with the worst. I'm not gonna put Balatro in the smallest because I have respect for indie studios. Even though I have nothing against them. I think Balatro is amazing. I've seen way too much gameplay of it.
You take your
Um,
time, man.
I'm gonna look at the list again if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay.
I need visual cue.
But to like back your point with what you were talking about with
Yeah,
Shadow of the Erd Tree,
yeah.
at first I didn't mind, and I think that's because Shadow of the Erd Tree is massive. I mean, it's bigger.
Phenomenal. It's like a
It's
whole
it's
game by itself.
yeah, it's like a game by itself. But I hadn't considered originally what like a point that you made, and the last guy I interviewed, Logan Robb, who's a community manager at Zebra Interactive, made a similar point where you have to buy Elden Ring, play, and then you have to buy Shadow of the
Play
Erd
it
Tree
to
to
a
even access it.
considerable amount, by the way. You have to
Yeah.
get to Moog. That's
Um,
tough.
I think I'm conflicted because Shadow of the Erd Tree is like, in my opinion, goes above and beyond what a DLC typically is.
Absolutely.
Um, but at the same time, like yeah, like it's walled off. You have to get pretty far in the original game. So I think going forward, I don't mind it in this particular instance, but I don't think it should be like something that continues to happen.
That's
And they
the
definitely,
point, right?
yeah,
It's like
that
for Shadow of the Erdtree, we can forgive it because it's just genre defining, it's DLC defining, it's like a whole game on its own. But going forward, if we're gonna be competing with DLCs in the game
mm,
of the year, it's gonna incentivize big studios to stop making new titles.
yeah. I definitely think that there should be like a category for DLCs. Like
Absolutely.
imagine if and this is no shot to anybody that's fan of Destiny 2, but like imagine if the Final Shape or something got
Exactly.
nominated for Game of the Year. Like
So you
I
get
think
my
that
point. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's like no offense. I get it. I get that, it's but yeah.
yeah. So you
My
got them all
worst
pulled
one.
up. Your
Yes.
worst one.
I have to apologize for this because I know that there's a huge fan base. I am going to be very sorry because your comment section might be filled with hatred for me. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
I could I think I knew that's what you're gonna do. Um, as soon as you mentioned like it's got like a big fan
Yeah,
base. Um, see, I'm in a weird spot because I didn't get to play a lot of games this year. Like last year, I
yeah.
think I played 4 out of like the 6 Game of the Year nominees and beat them. I haven't beaten a single Game of the Year nominee this year
Not even
at all.
Wukong?
I don't have Black Myth Wukong. I don't have Metaphor ReFantazio. I do have Shadow of the Erd Tree, but I
Mm,
haven't beaten it because I have a PlayStation 5 and it didn't really run that great on the PlayStation 5
I
at
think they patched
first.
it out. There were
Um,
performance issues,
yeah,
yeah.
they probably patched it up, so I'll probably
Yeah.
go back. I got like around halfway through Astrobot and I liked it. But school just caught up and I've been playing Balatro, but it's like can you really ever beat a roguelike?
It's an
There's always
arcade.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, kinda. Yeah.
Um, and I've Final Fantasy Rebirth. I mean, like the only Final Fantasy game I've ever played is 15. Well, not the only one I've ever played, but the only one I've ever beaten is 15. I do want to play this Final Fantasy 7 remakes. Like they look cool. I have the first one that came out in like 2018, downloaded
Yeah,
on my PlayStation.
yeah.
I just haven't had time this year. Like it's I've not had the time or the money this year compared to last year.
No, that's fair. I put it on the bottom to be honest, not out of spite or anything. I have played like the first one. So Rebirth's the sequel of that, and the first one is fantastic beautifully.
Yeah.
But there's a problem with it that's a big problem nowadays with the AAA studios in every single one of their titles. It's too grindy, it's too full of fluff.
Mm.
And it takes me back to my original point that was going to be unpopular anyway. This is a remake of an original game that broke records in 1997. And my friends, I've never played that original title, but like people who played it, I've heard from them that they have taken the original content and they have split it up in like 6 to 7 pieces, and they're willing to milk that for years and years. So
Really.
technically, you're playing Final Fantasy VII Part 1, Part 2 now. So I think it's fantastic. I'm a huge fan of Sephiroth. I think he looks cool. But yeah, it's my bottom one.
Yeah. And for me, I think like I guess it was different. I know we just talked so much about how great Elden Ring is, but
Hmm.
most of the time for me, like open world games are like it has to be the best of the best for me to even want to touch it.
No, I agree.
Um,
I agree.
like I strongly prefer like a linear game that maybe has like a couple side paths that you can go down.
I
Uh,
see.
like Baldur's Gate, the like last year, Baldur's Gate 3, great game. Like I liked it a lot, but man, is it massive. Like
Oh my God, I
um
didn't finish it.
it's huge. It's like it took me like 100 something hours to beat it.
You
And
beat it.
yeah, I beat it.
That's
And
respectful.
Larian did like a great job, don't get me wrong. Like, but to me, it's like something gets
Too
so
much.
massive that it's like I can't do this. And like it gets overwhelming. Whereas like
Yeah, I get that.
Alan Wake 2 was my personal game of the year, and it was
Hmm.
a lot more manageable where it's like you can beat it in around like 16 to maybe 20 hours. And then I was like, man, I want to go
Short and
back
sweet.
again.
Short and
Um,
sweet. I get that.
and I understand it's like a preference thing. Like somebody else might want to just like, yeah, give
I
me a
personally agree with you.
150.
As
Yeah.
much as I love Elden Ring and how genre defining it was, my favorite stands at Sekiro. It's like the
Yeah.
most linear game they've ever made, the shortest one they've ever made, and I've
Um,
replayed it over and over.
yeah.
So I get what you mean.
Dark Souls 1 is pretty linear too.
Never played it. I
You've never played Dark Souls 1? I think my thing with Dark, and don't let this deter you. My thing with Dark Souls 1 is
hmm
like I love, and I think that you'll hear this from a lot of people, because I think it's the biggest complaint. I love the first half of Dark Souls 1. I do not like the second half. And
heard
it's
that.
not bad, but it's just like I think it becomes like getting to certain areas and getting to certain bosses becomes a
The
little bit
Poison
more of a
Swamp.
yeah, it becomes a little bit more of a chore. So there's been like three times where I'll like replay Dark Souls 1 and I'll get to on Orlando and I'll be Ornstein and Small and I'll just go, all right, I'm done. Um, and I'll
Honestly, I would
never,
quit before Orange Sin and Smoke because like I hate
yeah.
dual bosses.
I don't like them too, and I know that a lot of people are like, Ornstein and Small are some of the best designed bosses in gaming. I mean, look at the pillar placement. Um, I
No,
don't
it's
really care
not.
for it.
No, it's not.
Like I'll just summon a guy
Lore-wise,
and
I could write fan fictions about them. They're
yeah,
so cool.
I could
But
just
yeah,
I'd rather just like summon a guy and plow through them and then uh but what's your number five pick for your
it's gotta be Balatro.
Elatro?
I've seen gameplay of it. It looks fun. It's very fun, but the list is stacked. I gotta put
Yeah,
other things. After that, I'm gonna put Astrobot.
Astrobot.
And the only reason I'm putting Astrobot, have I missed something? So there's Metaphor, Wukong, Shadow of the Earth Tree, Astrobot, Final Fantasy, and Balatro.
That's it. That's all of them.
That's it. Okay, yeah. So then Astrobot, excuse me. I've heard that it's very fun. I haven't gotten around to playing it yet. It's just the first three are just phenomenal
It,
because I think they're just works of art.
yeah. Balat I don't know why I
Sha
was about to say Balatro. We're talking about Astrobot. Astrobot's
yeah.
like I loved the demo.
Hmm.
on the PlayStation 5, and I've never been a huge platformer guy. Like not even as a kid. Like the only platforming series that I have like ever regularly gone back to is Ratchet and Clank, and even then it's like pushing it a little bit, I think. Um, Astrobot, it did a good job like holding my attention for a while as somebody that doesn't even really care for
It was
platformers.
very nostalgic, I guess.
Yeah. It was fun, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think there's some pretty steep competition on here. The sound track was great though.
I
For
heard.
Astrobot, it was
I
awesome.
heard.
You were you gonna put Shadow of the Earth Tree at 3? You were about to mention it.
I am going to put Metaphor at 3 because of recency
Oh,
bias
okay.
again. Because I have seen clips of Metaphor. I haven't gotten to play it, unfortunately. I think it's a work of art, and the way the narrative deals with our recent social issues and stuff, it's phenomenal. But Shadow of the Earth Tree.
Is that
I would put it at number one if I could. If
but
game science hadn't come up with something that planted me in front of my PS5, making me feel like I am 10 years old discovering Pokemon Sapphire for the first time on an emulator, spending hours and hours and hours. I ended up platinuming that game
Black
on
Myth
PS5.
Wukong?
Yes, it's the
Jeez.
fastest I've ever platinumed a video game in my entire life.
Isn't it
And
is it a Souls-like Black Myth
no,
Wukong? Oh, I was
no.
under the impression it was a Souls-like.
So it was advertised as Souls-like by the journalist, by the beloved journalist in our beloved industry. But it's not. No. I
Oh,
would say it's more of a blend of Sekiro meets Devil May Cry meets God of War 2018.
okay. So it's like a kind of hack and slash with
Action
like
RPG kind of. It's
okay.
not hack and slash necessarily because you can't just spam things.
Okay.
That's why I pulled Sekiro. But
Sekiro. Okay.
it's grand cinematic but linear, so God of War 2018. But it's also flashy and there's a lot of things happening, kind of like Devil May Cry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my number
Uh,
one.
so number one's Black Myth, two is Shadow of the Earth Tree, three
Yeah.
is Metaphor ReFantazio, then Astrobot, then Rebirth, then Balat. No,
No,
then Astrobot,
then
then Balatro, then
True and
Rebirth.
Rebirth. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next question. Um, do you have any predictions for the Game of the Year awards? Maybe do you predict we'll see any trailers for anything, or do you have any predictions for any of the categories? Who do you think's gonna win what? What do you think?
I have a feeling that Shadow of the Erdtree is gonna win. Because do you know
Really?
why I say that?
Why?
Because I think that the team at the Game Awards changed the whole rule about including DLCs in the whole tier for Shadow of the Erdtree. Like
Really?
they saw a DLC that felt like a whole another different game that was better than some of the biggest AAA games that came out, and they were like, "Yeah, we gotta add this."
That you could be right, but I don't know. I think that I feel like with because you mentioned earlier, you're like, I don't when you were talking about why you didn't think it should get nominated, you said that it was an unpopular opinion, but I actually think that that's a fairly popular opinion. Like that's what I've been
Really, you
seeing a lot of.
think?
I've been seeing a lot of people online say like this shouldn't have been nominated.
Hearing that makes me really
Um,
happy. I
uh,
thought I thought I was in the minority.
yeah, like I don't think it'll win. Um, I don't think that Balatro will win either, just because like it's a great game and I love it, but it's against some like really
Yeah.
big titles, and I
Mm.
think it's a win in and of itself that it was nominated. And maybe,
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
if they start nominating more stuff in the future, like more indie games, an indie game will win.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I think it's between. I really think it's going to be between Final Fantasy Rebirth and Metaphor ReFantazio. I think and
I
Black
can
Myth
respect
Wukong.
that. I can respect that. I
Those
think
three.
Metaphor has an edge over Rebirth though because people I think it was made by the makers of Persona.
Yes, it was made by Atlas.
Yes,
Uh,
yes.
and
Um it has
it
a
looks
cult
very
following.
similar. It looks very similar to
Yeah.
Persona to like um but I've heard great things about all three of those. Like I haven't heard a single bad thing about those three games. Like
I can
people
guarantee you right now that if the voting wasn't just open to Western journalists, if the voting was like a global voting, Wukong would win.
Probably. I mean, it's like a huge story. Like it's
It's
been
the
retold a
sequel
hundred
to Journey
times.
to the West.
Oh, it's a sequel. I thought it was just a
Did you not know
retelling
that?
of. I thought it was
No,
just a
it's not a
retelling
retelling.
of Journey to the West.
It picks up right after Journey to the West. So
That's
I never
crazy.
read Journey to the West until I played the game. And then I played the game and I'm like, I'm confused. So I started listening to the audiobook. I listened to the audiobook the whole way. And it picks up right after the book ends.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Um, no, it looks cool. Maybe I'll have to give it a try since you like it so
please do.
much. Then,
That's my one recommendation in this interview.
yeah. Well, we've gone through the ranking. We've gone through all your questions and made the predictions. Unfortunately, we're at my last question before we head off. It's been a lot of fun having you. I really enjoyed talking about games with
Likewise.
you. Um, do you have anything else you'd like to add but before we end this interview?
I would just like to add a very positive message because I know I came across as a very realistic guy talking about the real struggles and stuff. A very positive message in the recent years that I've been seeing. I know the market is really saturated right now in the game industry, but there has been a massive downfall of AAA studios. I did not wish for it. I grew up playing Assassin's Creed, and I'm not naming names here, but in the recent years, like for example, Balatro getting nominated, things like this, Hollow Knight making a dent in the market. These are very good signs going forward for us small artists because then we have a chance to stand out because people are finally seeing that just pouring money into a project doesn't make it the best. You have to have love. You have to have some beauty that's crafted by the hands of people who actually love it and are not just working a 9 to 5 that they hate. So I think that's a very good trend that we're going to head towards. And yeah, I just hope everyone who loves video games can be a part of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, everybody, this was Fahim
Thanks again,
Siddiqui
Connor.
of Studio Cloud Gray. I really enjoyed having you, man. I look forward to your future endeavors and maybe we'll interview again when you release
Cool. Yeah.
what was it called? The chicken game Pollo. I don't remember the name. Something Pollo.
Yeah.
Um, but awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.